obligatory throwaway account for obvious reasons. My soon-to-be ex-husband knows my main account, and he is too narcissistic not to check up on me. Also, English is my first language, but my hands are currently shaking with rage-induced caffeine jitters, so forgive any typos. Buckle up, Reddit. This is long, painful, and stupidly cliché until it isn't. Never in a million years did I think I'd be posting here. You always read these stories and think, that's terrible, but it would never happen to me. We're different. We communicate. Yeah, right. I was that smug, happily married woman just 4 days ago. Now I feel like I'm living in a Lifetime movie, but the acting is worse and the stakes are my entire actual life. Let me set the scene. Me, 32, and my husband, let's call him Mark, 35, have been together for 10 years, married for 7. We were the power couple of our friend group, not in an obnoxious way, I hope, but in a steady, reliable way. We built a life from scratch. When we met, we were both broke college grads living off ramen. Mark always had big dreams. He wanted to start his own tech consulting firm, and I supported him. God, did I support him. For the first 4 years of our marriage, I worked a soul-sucking corporate job I hated, pulling ridiculous overtime just so we could pay the mortgage and he could reinvest every penny back into his baby, his company. I carried our health insurance. I paid for groceries. I managed the household so he could focus entirely on landing clients. I didn't mind. We were a team. His success was our success. And he did become successful. About 3 years ago, his company really took off. He hired staff, got a fancy office downtown, and started bringing in serious money. I finally got to quit my hated job and started working part-time as a freelance graphic designer, something I actually enjoyed. We bought a bigger house. We started talking about maybe having kids soon. Life was picture perfect. Sure, he worked late a lot. Sure, he traveled for client meetings more frequently in the last year, but he's an entrepreneur. That comes with the territory, right? I trusted him implicitly, blindly, stupidly. Fast forward to last Sunday. It was one of those perfect lazy weekends. Mark had gone to the gym for an unusually long 3-hour workout. Hindsight is 20/20, isn't it? And I decided to finally tackle organizing the guest room closet. It was filled with junk we hadn't unpacked since the move 2 years ago. Buried at the bottom of a box labeled MISC Cables and Tech, I found an old iPad. It was an ancient iPad Air too, cracked screen in the corner, something we hadn't used since maybe 2018. Mark must have tossed it in there when he upgraded. I don't know why I didn't just throw it in the e-waste pile. Curiosity, I guess. I wondered if it still worked, or if it had old photos of our vacations on it. I plugged it in. Surprisingly, after about 20 minutes, the Apple logo popped up. It booted. It was still logged in to our home Wi-Fi network, which we've never changed. It started sputtering, trying to download years of updates. I left it on the nightstand and went back to organizing. About an hour later, I heard it. Ping! A notification sound, not the standard iMessage chime, something else. I walked over, wiping dust off my hands. The screen was lit up. A single notification box sat in the center of the cracked glass. It was from an app called Signal, an encrypted messaging app I didn't even know Mark used. The message preview read, Sarah, not me, obviously, some contact name. Did you finally leave the house? I missed you this morning. I stared at it. My brain did that thing where it tries to protect you from trauma by refusing to process information. My first thought was, spam bots are getting weirdly personal. But then another one came through immediately. Sarah, Signal, he's at the gym, right? LOL. Send me a pic when you're in the car. Can't wait for Tuesday. The contact name was Sarah, my name. My blood ran cold. Why would he have someone saved under my name in a secret messaging app? The realization hit me like a physical blow to the chest. It was a cover. If I ever casually glanced at his phone and saw a notification from Sarah, I wouldn't think twice. It was evil genius levels of manipulative. My hands started trembling. I swiped to unlock the iPad. It needed a passcode. Mark is creatures of habit. I tried the passcode he's used for everything since 2013, the month and year of our first date. It unlocked. He hadn't used this iPad in years, so he hadn't bothered to log out of his apps or change the settings on it. It was a time capsule of his treachery. I opened the Signal app. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. There was only one active chat thread, the contact Sarah. I scrolled up and up and up. The thread went back 18 months. Reddit, I wish I could say it was just physical. I wish I could say it was a drunken one-night stand he regretted. That would have been survivable, but this was a whole other life. The woman, who I gathered from context clues, is his 25-year-old executive assistant, let's call her Chloe, and my husband were deeply entangled. I sat on the floor of that dusty guest room for 3 hours reading every message. It was like drinking poison. There were the usual disgusting affair things, nudes, graphic descriptions of what they did in hotels on those business trips, declarations of love that made me want to vomit. He told her things he used to tell me 10 years ago. But then it got worse. It got cruel. They talked about me constantly. Mark, she's making that damn lasagna again. I have to go home and pretend to enjoy it before I can call you. Chloe, poor baby, soon you won't have to pretend anything. Mark, she was asking about kids again today. I almost laughed in her face. Imagine being tied to that anchor for another 18 years. Chloe, don't worry, babe. Just stick to the plan. We're almost there. The plan? They kept mentioning the plan. I started looking for dates around big financial decisions we'd made recently. Remember how I said his business took off 3 years ago? 6 months ago, Mark convinced me that we needed to protect our assets because the business was growing so fast. He suggested a post-nuptial agreement. He framed it as protecting me in case the business got sued. He had a lawyer draw it up. I, like the trusting idiot I was, signed it without having my own lawyer look at it closely because we're a team. I searched the messages around that date. Mark, 6 months ago. She signed it. Didn't even ask questions. God, she's so naive sometimes. It's pathetic. Chloe, yes, step 1 complete. You're amazing. Now we just need to divert the Q3 profits. Mark, already on it. I'm opening the shell account in Delaware next week. By the time I file for divorce next year, on paper, the business will look like it's barely making even. She'll get half of nothing. I felt sick. Physically, violently sick. I ran to the guest bathroom and dry heaved into the toilet until there was nothing left. I went back to the iPad. I needed evidence. I couldn't just screenshot things. I needed the raw data. I don't know where the clarity came from. Maybe it was the sheer adrenaline of survival mode kicking in. I realized I couldn't confront him yet. If I confronted him now, he'd lock everything down. He'd delete the apps, destroy the paper trail, and gaslight me until I thought I was crazy. He'd accelerate the plan. I needed to be smarter than him. I needed to be the cold, calculating bitch he already thought I was in those texts. I took photos of the iPad screen with my phone. Then I started forwarding the most incriminating chats, especially the ones about money and the post-nup, to a new, secure email address I created right then and there. I was in the middle of forwarding a video he sent her, taken in our bed when I was visiting my sister last month. I nearly passed out from rage. When I heard the garage door open downstairs, panic, pure animal panic. He was back from the gym. I quickly closed all the apps on the iPad. I wiped my fingerprints off the screen. I plugged it back into the wall where I found it, making it look undisturbed in the box. I ran into the master bedroom, splashed cold water on my face, and tried to stop shaking. I looked in the mirror. I looked ghastly pale, but otherwise I looked like Sarah, the supportive wife, the anchor. I heard his heavy footsteps coming up the stairs. He was whistling. He was whistling because he just spent 3 hours with his mistress, plotting my demise, and now he was coming home to the clean house I kept and the food I cooked. He walked into the bedroom, smelling of expensive shower gel, not sweat, I noted immediately, and lies. "Hey, babe," he said, flashing that charming, dimpled smile that used to make my knees weak. Now it just made my skin crawl. He walked over to kiss me. I didn't recoil. I didn't scream. I leaned in and kissed the cheek of the man who had just called me pathetic to his lover. "Hey," I managed to say. My voice sounded strangled, but he didn't notice. He never notices anything about me anymore. "How was the gym?" "Brutal. Leg day," he lied easily, tossing his gym bag into the corner. He checked his phone. "Ugh, work emails already? I might need to hop on a call later tonight." A call with Chloe to talk about how pathetic I am. "Okay, honey," I said, turning away so he couldn't see the murder in my eyes. "Dinner will be ready in an hour." He went into the shower, whistling again. I stood in the middle of our bedroom, the room where we had dreamed of our future, and realized it was all a war zone now. I was behind enemy lines, and the enemy didn't even know I had weapons. He thinks I'm naive. He thinks I'm weak. He thinks he's won. He forgot one thing. He forgot that for 4 years I managed every penny of our household while he played CEO. He forgot that I know where all the bodies are buried because I handed him the shovel. He forgot that before I was his anchor, I was the woman who helped him build his empire. I'm going to burn it to the ground. But first, I need a lawyer. A really, really mean one. Update. Thanks for all the support on my last post. Some of you suggested I check the cloud settings on that iPad. You were right. It's worse than I thought. The last 48 hours have been a blur of performative wifely duties and secret late-night data mining. I feel like a spy in my own home. Every time Mark touches my shoulder or calls me babe, I have to suppress a physical shudder. It's exhausting, but the rage is a very effective fuel. Monday morning, Mark left for the office at 7:30 a.m., looking sharp in the suit I bought him for his birthday last year. He gave me a quick kiss on the forehead and said, "Don't wait up, Sarah. Big merger meeting tonight. Might be a late one." "Of course, honey," I said, smiling like the perfect, supportive anchor he thinks I am. "Good luck with the meeting." The moment his Tesla pulled out of the driveway, I went to work. I didn't go to the guest room, too risky if he came back for a forgotten folder. Instead, I took the old iPad to a local library with a public Wi-Fi. I needed to be off our home network for what I was about to do. First, I explored the Signal app further. I found a hidden folder. My husband, for all his tech savviness, is surprisingly lazy with old devices. The password for the hidden folder was the same as the iPad's. Inside were photos, not just of Chloe, but of us, or rather, photos of documents. He had photographed our bank statements, the deed to our house, and the post-nuptial agreement I signed 6 months ago. But there were also screenshots of his internal ledgers for the company. I'm a graphic designer now, but as I mentioned before, I spent 4 years managing our finances and his early books. I know his shorthand. I saw entries labeled SLV Consulting. I did a quick search on the Delaware Secretary of State website, Silver Lining Ventures LLC, registered 4 months ago. The owner? A holding company in the Cayman Islands. But here's where Mark's narcissism becomes his Achilles heel. He kept a cheat sheet in his notes app, protected by a password, again, our anniversary. It was a step-by-step breakdown of how he was moving money. He wasn't just hiding future profits. He had been skimming for nearly 2 years. He'd create fake invoices from SLV Consulting for software licenses, pay them from the main company account, and the money would vanish into the Delaware shell. According to his notes, he had already moved nearly $450,000. That's almost half of our liquid savings and the company's operating reserve. He was literally draining the lifeblood of the business I helped him build, preparing to leave me with the husk of a company and a mountain of debt he'd conveniently framed as unforeseen business losses. Then I found the rainy day fund. In a message to Chloe from last month, he sent a photo of a small fireproof floor safe. "Mark, the backup is ready. If the courts get messy with the Delaware account, this stays off the books. It's in the usual spot, enough to keep us in mimosas in Bali for a year." The usual spot. My heart hammered against my ribs. In our old apartment, the usual spot for emergency cash was behind a loose board in the pantry. In this house, we didn't have a loose board. I spent the afternoon at the library downloading every file, every note, every photo to an encrypted thumb drive. I also found something that made me laugh, a bitter, jagged sound that earned me a shushing from the librarian. In his rush to set up the post-nup, Mark's lawyer had used a template. In the section where it lists initial capital contribution, it clearly stated that the business was founded with a $50,000 loan from the spouse's personal inheritance. That was the money my grandmother left me. Wait, if the business was started with my separate property and the post-nup didn't explicitly convert that initial loan into his sole equity, I'm not a lawyer, but I remember a conversation with my uncle, who is one. He once told me, in this state, if you mingle separate property into a business without a very specific transmutation clause, you might still own a chunk of the underlying asset, regardless of whose name is on the LLC filing. Mark had been so focused on hiding the current money that he might have left the foundation of the house in my name. I went home around 4 p.m. I needed to find that safe. I searched the pantry, nothing. The master closet, nothing. The garage, I spent an hour moving boxes, nothing. I was about to give up when I went into the basement to do a load of laundry. I looked at the heavy industrial-sized water heater. There's a small crawl space access door behind it that we never use. It's awkward to get to. I grabbed a flashlight and squeezed behind the heater. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open. There, tucked into the corner of the dark, dusty crawl space, sat the black, fireproof safe. I didn't try to open it. I didn't need to. I took a photo of it. I felt the weight of it. It was heavy, probably cash, maybe some jewelry he bought for Chloe with our money, or even gold bullion. Mark was always a pripper at heart. I crawled out, covered in cobwebs and a cold, crystalline clarity. He thinks he's playing 4D chess. He thinks I'm the anchor dragging him down, while Chloe is the sail taking him to his new life. He's forgotten that anchors don't just sit there. They're heavy, and if you're tied to one when you jump overboard, you don't sail, you sink. I called a law firm I'd researched earlier, Vance and Associates. Their tagline was, "Protecting what's yours," but their reputation in the city was the pit bulls of divorce. The intake assistant asked what the consultation was regarding. "Asset protection and fraud," I said, my voice steady for the first time in days. "I believe my husband is embezzling from a company that I legally co-own. I have an appointment tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Tonight, Mark came home late as expected. He smelled like Chloe's perfume, something floral and cheap. He tried to tell me about the merger. He was so animated, so stressed. He actually had the nerve to ask for a shoulder rub because he works so hard for us. I did it. I rubbed his shoulders. I felt the tension in his muscles. I thought about how those same shoulders would look when they slumped in a courtroom. "You're so good to me, Sarah," he murmured, closing his eyes. "I know, Mark," I said. "I'm exactly what you deserve." Update. I met with the lawyer. Let's just say the anchor is about to become a wrecking ball. If you're ever in a situation like mine, Reddit, remember this. The person who wins isn't the one who screams the loudest. It's the one who stays the quietest while sharpening their knife. Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. I walked into the office of Vance & Associates. The lobby smelled like old money and expensive leather. Mr. Vance wasn't what I expected. I thought I'd get a loud, aggressive TV-style lawyer. Instead, I got a silver-haired man in his 60s with glasses perched on the tip of his nose and a voice as calm as a frozen lake. I handed him the encrypted thumb drive. I told him everything. I told him about the 10 years, the ramen noodle days, the $50,000 inheritance I loaned the business, and the messages I found on the iPad. He spent 40 minutes scrolling through the data in silence. Every now and then he'd hum or tilt his head. When he finally looked up, he had a tiny, terrifying smile on his face. "Mrs. Miller," he said, "your husband is a very successful businessman, but he is a spectacularly incompetent criminal." He explained the situation. Because the business was founded with my separate property, the inheritance, and I had contributed years of sweat equity without fair compensation, the post-nuptial agreement was already on shaky ground. But the Delaware Shell Company, that was the nail in the coffin. In this state, Vance explained, signing a post-nup under the premise of asset protection while actively hiding those same assets is called fraudulent inducement. It doesn't just make the agreement voidable, it makes it a weapon we can use to claim a larger share of the marital estate as a penalty for his bad faith. Then came the plan. Vance told me not to file yet. If we file now, he'll know we're on to the money. He'll try to move the Delaware funds further offshore. We need him to feel safe. We need him to think he's successfully winning, so he keeps all the evidence right where we can grab it. He also suggested I hire a private investigator he works with. We have the financial fraud, Sarah, but in a divorce, the moral narrative matters for the judge. We need photos. We need videos of him and Chloe together. We need a paper trail of him spending company money on her. Hotels, jewelry, dinners. I left his office feeling lighter than I had in years. I felt like I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a hunter. The next 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. I had to live with the monster and pretend I didn't see the scales under his skin. I hired the PI, a guy named Artie who looked like a high school geography teacher but moved like a ghost. Within 3 days, Artie sent me a link to a private cloud folder. There they were, Mark and Chloe. Photos of them kissing in the parking lot of a Hilton, a video of him buying her a $4,000 Cartier bracelet at the mall, paid for with the business marketing credit card, a screenshot of a reservation for a business retreat next month in Aspen, just one room, a suite. Every time I saw a new photo, I felt a stab in my heart. But then I'd look at the folder I was building, the war chest, and the pain would turn into a cold, hard diamond of resolution. Mark, meanwhile, was getting bolder. He started working even later. He'd come home and complain about how stressed he was because the company was struggling. "Sarah, babe, I might have to take a smaller salary this year," he said one night over dinner. He was eating the steak I'd cooked, looking me dead in the eye with a face of fake concern. "The market is shifting. We might have to tighten our belts next year. Maybe we should look into downsizing the house next year." He was literally trying to pave the way for his half-of-nothing exit. He wanted me to be grateful for whatever crumbs he left me. "Whatever you think is best, honey," I said, taking a sip of wine. "I trust you completely." Inside, I was screaming. Outside, I was a lake. Then, the opportunity presented itself. Next month is the 10th anniversary of the founding of Mark's firm. He's planning a massive gala at the most expensive hotel downtown. He wants to invite all his major clients, the local press, and his entire team, including Chloe. He told me it was a rebranding event to show the world the company is stronger than ever, even though he tells me it's failing. He wants me there by his side, the supportive wife who helped him from the beginning. He wants to use me as a prop to show his clients he's a stable, family-oriented man. "It'll be great, Sarah," he said, showing me the guest list. "I'd even want you to give a small speech about the early days. It'll really sell the origin story of the company." I looked at the guest list. I saw Chloe's name. I saw the names of the board members. I saw the names of his biggest investors. "I'd love to, Mark," I said. "I'll make sure it's a night no one will ever forget." Vance and I have been coordinating. We're not just going to serve him papers, we're going to do it in front of everyone he's ever lied to. I'm currently working on my speech, but it's not about the early days. It's a presentation, and I've been practicing with the AV guy at the hotel, who happens to be a friend of a friend. Mark thinks he's the director of this movie. He has no idea the script has been rewritten. Update. The gala happened. If you're looking for a video, I can't post it yet for legal reasons, but imagine the sound of $1,000 ego shattering in slow motion. The ballroom of the Grand Excelsior was a sea of black ties, silk dresses, and fake smiles. Mark was in his element. He was wearing a custom-tailored tuxedo that cost more than my first car, holding a crystal glass of scotch and laughing with his board of directors. Chloe was there, of course. She was wearing a dress that was just a little too tight for a corporate event, playing the role of the diligent assistant. Every time her eyes met Mark's, there was this sickening glimmer of shared secrets. They thought they were the smartest people in the room. I stood by his side for 2 hours. I played the part. I shook hands with investors, I smiled at the press, and I even complimented Chloe on her work ethic. "You really are the backbone of this office, Chloe," I said, my voice dripping with a sweetness she was too young to recognize as venom. "Oh, thank you, Sarah. Mark always says he couldn't do it without me," she chirped. He didn't know how right she was. At 9 p.m., the lights dimmed. The giant LED screen behind the podium lit up with the company logo, Miller Consulting, 10 years of excellence. Mark walked up to the stage. He gave a rousing 10-minute speech about vision, integrity, and the future. He thanked his investors, he thanked his team, and then he turned to me with a look of practiced adoration. "And finally," he said, his voice echoing through the silent room, "none of this would be possible without my rock, my wife, Sarah. She's been there since we were working out of a 1-bedroom apartment. Sarah, come up here and say a few words." The applause was thunderous. I walked up the steps, my heart beating with a cold, steady rhythm. I handed my USB drive to the AV guy, the friend of a friend, who had already preloaded my special file. I stood at the podium. I looked out at the crowd. I saw Mark smiling at me from the front row. I saw Chloe leaning against a pillar looking bored. "Thank you, Mark," I began. 10 years is a long time. It's long enough to build something beautiful, and it's long enough to realize that some things are built on a foundation of sand. Mark's smile faltered slightly. Mark asked me to talk about the early days, but I think it's more important to talk about transparency, because that's what a successful partnership is built on, right? Whether it's in business or in a marriage. I nodded to the AV booth. I've prepared a short presentation on the real state of Miller Consulting. The screen behind me changed. It wasn't a photo of us in our first apartment. It was a giant, high-resolution screenshot of the Silver Lining Ventures LLC registration in Delaware. A murmur rippled through the room. The board members leaned forward. "This," I said, my voice projecting clearly through the professional sound system, "is a company my husband created to siphon nearly $500,000 from your investments. He calls it asset protection. I call it embezzlement. I clicked the remote. The next slide was a side-by-side comparison of the company's official Q3 losses and the private ledger I found on the iPad, showing the money being diverted to the offshore accounts. "Sarah, what is this?" Mark started to stand up, his face turning a shade of purple I'd never seen before. "I'm not finished, Mark," I said calmly. I clicked again. Now the screen was filled with Artie's PI photos. Mark and Chloe kissing at the Hilton, the $4,000 Cartier receipt for the bracelet she was literally wearing at that very moment, and finally, the video he sent her of our bedroom. The room went deathly silent. You could have heard a pin drop on the thick carpet. Chloe looked like she wanted to melt into the floor. Mark was frozen, his mouth hanging open like a fish gasping for air. "You told me the company was failing, Mark," I said, looking directly at him. "You told me we needed to tighten our belts while you were buying jewelry and booking suites in Aspen with money you stole from your partners and your wife." I looked at the lead investor, Mr. Sterling, who was now standing up with a look of pure, unadulterated fury. "I've already sent the full forensic audit and the Signal chat logs to the board of directors and the SEC, I announced. At that exact moment, a man in a plain gray suit walked up to the front row. He handed Mark a thick envelope. "Mark Miller, you've been served," the man said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Petition for divorce and a temporary restraining order freezing all corporate and personal assets." Mark finally found his voice. You crazy bitch! You're destroying everything. You're destroying yourself." "No, Mark," I said, stepping down from the podium. "I'm just reclaiming the inheritance you thought was a loan. And as for the company, I don't need to destroy it. You did that the moment you thought you were smarter than the woman who helped you build it." I walked off the stage. I didn't look back. As I reached the doors of the ballroom, I heard Mr. Sterling's voice booming over the speakers. "Mark, get in the side room, now, and someone call the police." I walked out into the cool night air. I took a deep breath. The anchor had finally cut the rope, and the ship was sinking exactly where it belonged. Final update. It's been 14 months since the gala incident. I'm writing this from the balcony of a small apartment in a coastal town, sipping coffee that I bought with my own damn money. I am finally free. I won't lie, the first few months after the gala were hell. If you think blowing up your husband's life on a giant screen solves everything instantly, it doesn't. It just starts a new, very expensive kind of war. The divorce finalized 3 months ago. It took that long because Vance, my pit bull lawyer, and the forensic accountants were busy untangling the absolute mess Mark made of the company finances. Here's the fallout, bullet point style, because I know that's what you guys want. Mark experienced what my therapist calls a narcissistic collapse. When the money and the adoration vanished, there was nothing left of him but rage and self-pity. The business. He was officially voted off the board within 48 hours of the gala. Mr. Sterling and the other investors sued him for breach of fiduciary duty. The company barely survived the scandal and had to totally rebrand. Mark is toxic in his industry now. No reputable firm will touch him. The legal issues. He managed to avoid prison time, white-collar crime, am I right? But he is on severe probation for 5 years and owes colossal fines to the SEC. The money. He is broke. Between the fines, the lawsuits from investors, and the divorce settlement, he was wiped out. The rainy day fund safe, seized as evidence. The Cayman accounts, frozen and repatriated. He's currently living in his parents' basement at age 36, driving a 10-year-old Honda. Chloe. She was fired the morning after the gala, obviously. The romance didn't last long once the credit card stopped working. According to mutual acquaintances, she dumped Mark about 2 months into the investigation when she realized he wasn't her golden ticket anymore. She's blacklisted in the corporate world in our city. Last I heard, she moved back to her hometown and is working retail. I almost feel bad for her. Almost. She was young, but she knew exactly what she was doing when she mocked me in those texts. Me, the anchor. The divorce settlement was substantial. Because we proved fraud, the judge had zero sympathy for Mark. The prenup was tossed out completely. Remember that $50,000 inheritance loan? Vance used it to argue that I had a foundational stake in the business. I got the house, which I promptly sold because it was full of bad ghosts, a significant portion of the recovered assets, and, the sweetest irony, a percentage of the company's future profits for the next 10 years as restitution. Every time the company he built makes $1, I get a dime. But the money isn't the victory. The victory is that I remember who I am. I spent 10 years supporting someone else's dream, making myself smaller so he could feel bigger. I was an anchor, something to keep him steady, something heavy he resented being tied to. Now, I'm using that weight for myself. I've restarted my freelance design business full-time. I'm traveling. I'm in therapy, learning how to trust again. It's hard. Some days I still wake up angry. The betrayal runs deep, and I don't think the scar will ever fully fade. But then I look at where I am and where he is. He wanted to leave me with half of nothing. Instead, he ended up with nothing, and I ended up with my life back. So, if you are reading this and you feel like something is wrong in your relationship, check that old iPad, listen to your gut, and if you find out you are being played, don't scream, don't cry, get quiet, get a lawyer, and get everything that belongs to you. Karma is real, but sometimes it needs a good PowerPoint presentation to get things moving. Signing off, Sarah.